Look who's back. Who are you supposed to be? Marvel's newest superhero. What do they call you? Captain Brass Cojones? Well, seeing how you probably didn't learn your lesson last time, let's see how you fare against these stories. Let's get right into it with our first story. It's from an OP that had what she calls a wholesome haunting.
I am 18 years old. When I was 6, my dad passed away. He was an amazing dad, and when my siblings and I were babies, he was very protective. He was also in the military, and before he went on his last deployment, we made a Build-A-Bear, customizable stuffed animal. When you squeezed the hand, it would play a recording of him singing "You Are My Sunshine," which he always sang to us at night time or calm one of us down when we were upset or got hurt. When my dad returned from his deployment, the song wouldn't play. You could squeeze all you want, and it wouldn't play. We thought it was just broken, because little kids break things. Well, 2 weeks after my dad had passed, I fell down the stairs. From upstairs, you could hear my dad's recording play. It hadn't worked in the 2 years after he returned, and it suddenly worked now. My mom, my sister, our brothers, all stunned. We tried to make it play again, nothing. We thought it was just a fluke. Some crazy coincidence. Well, my sister's boyfriend broke up with her the next week. She came home crying. The moment she stepped through the front door, the bear goes off. It kept happening. When one of my brothers stubbed his toe. When my sister smacked herself in the head with the cabinet door, bright one she is. For years, every time one of us was upset, you would hear the bear. It stopped a couple of years ago. We all figured that Dad decided we were all teenagers now and didn't need his protection anymore. My sister didn't go to college because of her disability. She's taking some time off to heal and to figure out her own path. I am the second oldest. I just got my first college acceptance letter. I came in, tore the packaging open and jumped for joy. We were all crowded around the kitchen when we heard it. The freaking bear. Hadn't gone off in years.
Well, just because we parents pass on doesn't mean we stop wanting to protect and comfort our children. That desire is eternal. We still check in from time to time, even if our children don't know it. Our next one comes from a young lady that has some unexplained experiences. It's called, I Don't Know What's Going On. Gee, welcome to my world.
Okay, so I'm going to try to explain this the best I can. So to start off with, most of my life I haven't really had anything to do with the paranormal, although I do watch the occasional video on YouTube or whatever, but overall never really been interested. But I have had experiences. When I was 8, my grandfather had passed away due to a heart attack during the night. I was the one that found him the morning after. And as you could imagine, that was a lot for little me to take in. Anyways, a few weeks passed, and I randomly woke up in the middle of the night sweating and out of breath. I needed to go to the bathroom, and in order to do so from my bedroom, you have to pass by the living room and down the hall past my grandfather's room. As I was walking down the hall, I had this feeling come over me like someone was watching me. I didn't pay much attention to it since all I was focused on was getting to the bathroom. But as I passed his room, something caught my eye. Something tall, a shadow in the corner of his room. I can't describe it completely, but being so young it scared the balls out of me, and I sprinted back down the hall into my mother's room. And of course she didn't believe me. Anyways, that's just one experience from when I was a kid. I had a few more like that, but they eventually just stopped. Fast forward to now, I'm 15 and I've been a bit more invested in the paranormal and have been reading up on things. 2 nights ago I woke up, or so I thought, sweating. I was lying on my stomach and had my head to the side, meaning I could see my whole room. And there it was. From what I could tell, it was the same figure I had seen when I was young, except in my room beside my bed. I wanted to get up and scream, but I couldn't move, not even a single noise could escape my mouth. So I just laid there and watched this thing stare at me. Its limbs were unusually long, like weirdly long. It didn't match its torso or head size. I was sure I was lying there for hours, but I have no clue. Eventually I watched it take a step forward before I woke up, shaking uncontrollably, and I had this burning sensation across my neck. I checked the time and it was 3:33 a.m. Seriously, 3:33. Anyways, I ended up staying up for the rest of the night until my alarm went off at 6. I went to the bathroom and noticed scratches down my neck, 3 marks. I have no clue where I could have got them from, but I just ignored it. The following night, I had yet another occurrence. I was in a deep sleep when suddenly I felt a hand press down onto my chest, like a forceful pressure. This jolted me awake and I woke up out of breath and shaking. My room, even with all the lights out, is normally still somewhat dull lit due to me having no curtains or blinds and the light from the moon shines in my window. But when I woke up it was pitch black, and yes, I understand my eyes having to adjust, but they wouldn't. I sat there for a solid 5 minutes and it just stayed pitch black. I scrambled around to find my phone and turned on my flash to find my way across my room to turn on my light. I found this odd that my room was pitch black, so I experimented. I turned my flash off and then switched my light back off. And the room wasn't pitch black, it was dull lit. That freaked me out. How could it be different from literally a couple minutes ago? Anyways, there may be an explanation for it, but I just can't seem to debunk it. Today has been quiet, nothing really has been different. It's been raining all day, so I've just been studying. I'm just hoping nothing happens tonight. I feel like something may happen. Sorry for the ramble, but if you have any ideas of what it might be, please let me know.
Holy crap! I'm kinda hoping that's not your grandpa's spirit, because that would be pretty messed up. Next, we have one from a young thespian who had to give a performance in a haunted theater.
I was in the theater alone one night. I'm in high school theater. So, while I'm not technically meant to be alone, my directors couldn't care less. The 2 other people I was with were in another part of the theater, down a long hall, and in a room that didn't let much sound in or out if its big metal doors were shut, which they were. I was on stage packing up, it was dark, the stage lights and house lights were off, and I hadn't bothered with the work lights as I'd only be a minute, so it was pitch black aside from the flashlight on my phone. I was gathering my things when I heard footsteps. I assumed it was one of my friends and shot my flashlight over there to discover no one. As odd as it was, I chalked it up to them, walking outside the doors or the wood settling. It was rather old wood. I continued to gather my things when I heard rattling from the catwalk above me. I pointed my light up, and once more, nothing. I silently cursed the rats and the horror videos I watched for scaring me. I finished packing my things and stood up, turning to leave when I shined my flashlight to the main doors and saw something. It was just a moment that I saw it, but I still remember it clearly, a tall, dark figure hunched over. No disturbing features. I walked to the door, a bit unnerved when I went to open the door. The shop's automatic lights flickered on. They use motion sensors, and you have to walk pretty far into the workshop for them to turn on, so there was no way I triggered it. I didn't stick around long enough to find out who had turned them on. It could have possibly been a custodian, though why they would go into a room they never clean, nor have a reason to be in, is beyond me. I rushed out the hall and into the room where my friends were, the black box. I said a quick goodbye before exiting the theater entirely. The motion sensor lights in the hall never turned on, but I didn't realize till later. Not 100% sure if this is paranormal or not, or just a series of oddly timed coincidences.
Well, maybe the ghost was just hoping to catch a performance. Anyway, it looks like you've made it through another night of terror. But do you know what? Just because I'm such an awesome ghost host, I'll tell you one more story. It's about a woman that has a certain criteria for some to share her bed. You know, little things like having a pulse. Gee, some people are just so picky. We call this one, the stranger who slept beside me.
This happened when my close family visited the house of my grandmother's sister. The house was infamous for its eerie stories, like how at midnight music would start playing out of nowhere, continuing until someone physically went upstairs to turn it off. I didn't want to go, but staying home alone wasn't an option either. So, with a knot in my stomach, I decided to go. The first 2 nights were uneventful, but the house itself was suffocatingly creepy. No matter where I went, it always felt like someone's eyes were fixed on me. I chalked it up to nerves, convincing myself I was overthinking. But on the last night, something happened that I can never forget. I decided to sleep early to catch the morning ferry. I was sharing a room with 2 of my uncles and an aunt, while my parents and grandmother slept in a separate room. It was already cramped, and with their loud snoring, sleep seemed impossible. By 11 p.m., I was still wide awake. My mom's cousin, who had gone to a party earlier that evening, was supposed to return around midnight. I'd texted her asking her to bring food, but she didn't reply. Still, I stayed up hoping she'd show up soon. I must have drifted off because I suddenly woke up to the sound of footsteps in the hallway. They were slow, deliberate, and grew louder as they approached the room. The door creaked open. My heart pounded in the silence as a figure stood in the doorway, unmoving. In the faint moonlight spilling through the window, I could make out a dark silhouette. I froze, clutching my blanket, until the figure finally stepped inside and walked toward me. It was my mom's cousin, or at least I thought it was. She was wearing a dark nightgown, her long hair cascading over her shoulders. Without a word, she slipped into the small space beside me. I whispered, "Why are you sleeping here? It's already so cramped." She didn't respond. The weight of her body pressed into the bed, and I could feel the cool strands of her hair brushing against my arm. Something about her silence made my skin crawl, but I convinced myself she was just tired from the party. I scooted over carefully, not wanting to accidentally bump her face since she'd just gotten a nose job. The room felt impossibly still as I lay there, eyes wide open, listening to the rhythmic breathing of my relatives around me. Somehow, I eventually fell asleep. The next morning, I woke up to my mom shaking me. "Breakfast is ready. Get up. We need to pack." At the dining table, I saw my mom's cousin and couldn't resist teasing her. "Next time, if you're going to cram into our room, at least bring food. You know how hungry I was last night." She frowned, looking genuinely confused. "What are you talking about? I blacked out at the party and didn't even get home until this morning." I stared at her, trying to process her words. "Stop messing with me. You were literally in our room. You slept beside me." Her face paled. "I wasn't here," she said, her voice low. A cold dread spread through me. I turned to the rest of the family, desperate for answers. Everyone swore they'd stayed in their own rooms all night. My uncles and aunt had still been fast asleep when I woke up. Feeling nauseous, I went back to the bedroom to pack my things. The bed looked exactly as we'd left it, except for one thing. On the pillow where she had slept was a single strand of long black hair. No one else in the house had long hair. To this day, I still have no idea who or what slept beside me that night.
Well, I guess some ghosts just have no concept of personal space, do they? Well, how were those? Still feeling brave? I know, you found them to be a little too creepy, didn't you? But do you know what is not creepy? Hitting like, subscribe, and sharing this video, it'll really help us keep the ghosts at bay. And of course, if any of you have a story to share, or have any thoughts about our stories tonight, or if you have any suggestions on subjects for upcoming videos, then by all means drop me a line in the comments. But I do want to thank you for stopping by, and I hope the stories we told won't be giving you too many bad dreams. But if they do, then maybe you shouldn't run from them. After all, sometimes it's better to embrace your nightmares.